All right, welcome everybody. Good evening. As we continue on with our 17th season of the Summer Gazebo readings, we have a delightful group for you tonight, so we're going to get started right away. He's new to the Gazebo. Welcome, Indran, Mirthanayagam. Thank you. That's good. All right, you can hear me well? Yeah. Thanks for the invitation, Tony. Thank you. First time here. I read at the Walt Whitman Center in early May, though, so I've spent time on the island before, and I'm going to read some poems about Walt Whitman in my book, The Migrant States. There's a dialogue with Whitman. It's all right. Thank you. So I'm going to read some poems from the Migrant States, and copies of the books are in the back. And you know, I'm an immigrant, and you know, like so many people, this country, and I was born in Ceylon in Sri Lanka, and it's called now. And but I'm also an immigrant to American poetry, and for me, a dialogue with Walt Whitman seemed absolutely what I had to do in this book, to sort of. And so here, on his 200th birthday, I wrote this poem, Walt 200. Break the locks, unleash the mind. Walt Whitman has left Pomanock. He is abroad. He's sitting among us in our soul. He flies the posts with pigeons and the giant freight planes. He ups freight trains and rides into Mexico. He's on a P&O cruise visiting St. Kitts and Barbados. He has joined the merchant marine. He sails into Guantanamo. He throws fish into the sea in search of whales. He has the biggest, longest beard in the world. He jives, thrives, cavorts, shimmers. He's 200 years old today, and he does not give a flying rat. He's in your mind, Mr. President, even if you cannot smother or scratch or squeeze him out. He's gloriously spirit, gadfly, rabbit, and sloth. He nurses our democratic wounds. He knows how to write history from the pebble's view, the side glance of the wren, the snake hanging in the tree. He is black and white and all shades of gray. He is our friend and guide, and he will elect us every time we fall down. Let us go back to Pomanock with what we've learned these 200 years. Let us go back to set forth again Walt Whitman in our backpack. Thank you. So there are about a dozen poems in a sort of dialogue with Walt throughout the book. I'll read a couple more of those and then some other poems. Setting off. Walt explodes an impact in the mind. Nothing becomes everything, everything nothing. The equation turned inside out. Poems, democratic practice, phrenology, the discovery of India. There is no pebble from under which Walt does not peep out. I fell in love with him again at the Walt Whitman rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike. I wanted to call a book Giant Blow Up Whitman, Walt Whitman Doll. He retired in Camden, nursed the wounded in Washington, walked up and down Pomanock, Manhattan, and Staten Islands, across Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx. He became our first American walking poet and the most photographed of his time. He gave me license to loaf, to lime, to go everywhere my heart wanted. And now that I've come back to stay, he invites me to go again. Thank you. And this one is called, this is not about Walt Whitman, not about his beard, his eye, his breath. This is not about his peering behind the tomatoes. This poem does not give a damn that he set off from Pomanock and ended up dressing the wounds of the Union dying and the Confederate dying because he was spotted in my dream. Or was it another salt and pepper beard across enemy lines? He was indeed a contradiction. Man, woman, peasant, banker, slave, free man. He was too young to call himself gay, too old to call himself gay, too circumspect, too metaphoric, but he wrote how you settled your head athwart my hips and gently turned over upon me and parted the shirt from my bosom bone and plunged your tongue to my bare, stripped heart and reached till you felt my beard and reached till you held my feet. He was American and he wrote of places as far as his imagination could travel. So India became his subject, and the moon and the stars. Thank you. I've been called a political poet. Now, for me, that means the business of the community, you know, polis, community. And that's the root of that word, politics. And I wrote this book in 2020, 10,000 Steps Against the Tyrant. And I wrote it during the campaign against that orange-haired fellow. And also in the during the pandemic, you know. And so, and my mother is a figure in this book. I took her to vote, and then, you know, it was the mother of all elections, the mother of all pandemics, you know. My mother, I think of her tonight because, you know, she's been unwell but she's still, her spirit is still strong and she's still fighting on. So I dedicate this poem to her. And I wrote it a few years ago, and it's part of the section, the pandemic section. It's called Late Night Olive Oil. Let us put the letters and fears and boiling emotions on the page. Mummy, why did you go to the kitchen stealthily, without a word to your sleeping son, without your walker, to find the large bottle of olive oil, to pour it on the table and floor, to fill a small vessel which you meant to carry back to your room, as if nobody would notice until you called my name, because you could not negotiate the rest of the way from dining table to bedroom, vessel in hand, without cane or walker. I write to atone for my flailing words, saying, never, never, never again. The kitchen is prohibited. Your mania for oil in the hair is prohibited. The stealthy, mischievous, childish, truant foray into the darkness with a torch in hand, which you forgot on the countertop, all of this is prohibited. Your losing memory and control are prohibited. These words are prohibited. Decline and death are prohibited. Thank you. And, you know, I took my mother to the polling station. I wrote this poem called Voting Song. I'm going to take mother to the polling station. This may be her last chance to vote for the right path from the burning bush, sinking ship, roadkill, victims of the raging virus. I'm going to take mother to the polling station. And son, make sure you get that absentee ballot sent here while you visit. Every vote will count. And daughter, although you cannot vote, not this time, I want you to know that we have tried with all of our heart and mind to throw the bastards out. You know, the French call it poète engagé, you know, you're like a committed poet, right? But I mean, you know, the tent is big, in my view. My love, I'm voting. I'm crying, yes, but not to worry. These are happy tears, tears of bliss. I did not think God would have time to look out for me. Thank you, angel who intervened. Thank you, kindness to strangers, what you taught me, mom and dad. Thank you, poets, I love you as I love myself. Thank you, diplomats. Thank you, Kamala and Joe. Thank you, friends of America, Asia, Arabia, Australia, Europe, India, the Pacific Isles. Thank you, all peoples, animals, birds, plants, seeds, works of art, music, and dance not yet mentioned. Thank you, my love, voting. Thank you. And I'm going to keep an eye out for Tony because I need to have an idea about how long I'm going. But I think I'm going to read now from memory a poem goes back some time when I lived in New York City, and it's called So Beautiful. It was a Saturday night. I was walking, I didn't have a job. I was quite several $1,000s in debt, and I was alone. And I was looking at couples walking hand in hand on the streets and in the subway, and this came like a gift to me from the other side, from God, the muse. It's called So Beautiful. So beautiful, that couple in handsome black and red clothes, walking along the street, her arms folded, his in pockets cold, scarves loosely wrapped about white necks. And in the subway car, a black man takes a black woman's hands, and her eyes look far away beyond the walls, under the sea, and his eyes concentrate on her hands as glasses drop slightly down his nose, as she turns and smiles, as he looks up at clay made whole, and she takes her hands about his cheeks, makes a vase, and roses are put in his mouth and hair, and her brown leather coat crumples as she kisses him, and his black windbreaker is crumpled by her kiss, and for 2 subway stops their kiss moves a man to write and get up in the morning and sing an old song to remember a woman in a dream who held his hands, wearing earrings of white moons, in black hair open as a fan, blowing honeyed wind about the room in which they loved and loved, as kingdoms came and went, in which they loved and loved, as the black man and woman left their embrace to slowly get up to the door by an old man in the window seat, into whose hands dropped 2 white moons. Thank you very much. I have some books in the back if you're interested. I also wanted to say one thing. Look up beltwayeditions.com. It's the new publishing hot press of poetry. I'm doing it with Sarah Cahill Marin, and we have some lovely books there as well that we're introducing to the world. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Indran, Mirthanayagam. All right. So we're going to continue on. We have a wonderful lineup here tonight to go with this beautiful weather that we have here. I do want to remind everybody, if you have your program, to look at the back of it. You'll see all of our premium sponsors, our sponsors, and our program patrons. We thank them all very much for their generosity. It certainly helps us do the work that we do for the underprivileged, and now also for the literacy world. And so, without any further ado, the Oceanside Library is very proud to have a poet in residence. I don't know how many libraries in Long Island have a poet in residence, but we do. And she is an absolute delight, and she helps us in an innumerable number of ways behind the scenes and with programs at the Oceanside Library. And she's a great friend of the Gazebo. She's a great friend of poets here in Nassau County and throughout. Ladies and gentlemen, Christina Rao. See if I got the height right there.
Yeah, that should be good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tony. Tony Iovino. Yeah, well, thank you to the Oceanside Library and Oceanside Kiwanis and all of you for being here. Tony said that I am a delight. Look at me. Okay, so usually I have trivia, and I don't have any trivia tonight. So I know you might be disappointed, but that means everybody's already a winner. And I have stickers, and they're science-themed stickers because I was on sabbatical, and my sabbatical was also science-themed. I was planning to write a collection of poems about Nikola Tesla, Marie Curie, and Mars. And I did a lot of reading, but the writing is still in the works. But I have 2 science poems. So we'll start with that. Waves. These stationary waves, frozen in position, layer all around Earth. arcs electric, lightning curves close during thunderstorms. Everything is moving, everything is energy. Out there in Colorado, skies light up nightly. A show of force, voltage, magnitude, causing little sleep, maybe harnessable, maybe catchable. All of everything, whirling endlessly through endless spinning space, perhaps mimicable. Out on Pikes Peak, dangerous stuff. High frequencies generated and magnified. Spark a fire, suck up the power, get cut off, keep going, keep out. Unfunded, but the energy is there, free flowing, as it has been all along. Okay, the next poem I have is a found poem, and it's based on Marie Curie's radioactive substances, which is her book-length dissertation about all of the fun science things that she did. It is a 13.5-page poem. So buckle up. No, I'm not doing that. Tony will never invite me back. I am going to read one stanza from each page, and then you can come see this because it's not published anywhere. You can come see it if you're interested in the rest of it. Proving the body hypothesis through the process of isolating radioactive substances. Radioactive bodies besides ourselves becoming existence, a pure chemical existence. A strongly radioactive body appears incomplete. Radioactive bodies can be utilized, have been used. The new bodies, the feebly active bodies, are in reality luminous. The radiating body was a weak one. The face exposed becomes the same in a sealed glass vessel. A solid body is practically impossible. The same radioactive body does not behave. Radioactive bodies are kept in the dark, the whole replaced by darkness. New radioactive bodies should be annihilated in transparency between flesh and bone. The beauty enhanced upon the skin acts like a burn. Radioactive bodies generate, not justified. The radioactive body necessarily compensates. Certain bodies form exceptions. These bodies lose their law. All bodies do not behave. The active bodies were reckoned from the moment of spontaneous energy of any emanation. We will endeavor. Equilibrium will be disturbed, the radium diminished. New radioactive bodies have given rise to a movement, the starting point of the known. Yeah, I'm doing a whole thing. Once that's published, maybe in someday it will be published. I picture it on graph paper with like drawings and stuff, but I don't draw, so we all have high hopes. That's my transition into, I'm gonna read too from What We Do to Make Us Whole. And we're at the Gazebo, and it can be like a fun Monday night. And so I'm gonna try to keep it light, but this is a book about mostly grief, but some gratitude. So I found two poems that are kind of like happier. This one is called Gleeful. The joy of cows, roadside, sitting and standing together, as if I'd never seen cows, as if they are exotic. I suppose to some they are, to others secret. Once at the Atlanta Zoo, a keeper told me to think of giraffes as giant cows. Heads the same, just a different height. Giraffes are roadside somewhere, but not here. Down here, there are the cows, the green grasses, the flowers and blankets of maroon, white, purple, yellow, billowing, blossoming, blooming, for miles stretched ahead. So I'm to read this one too. I'm annoyed because this is a lighter poem, and I kind of think it's pretty, but I'm annoyed because I was dating a jerk when I wrote it, and it was just like, well, but I'm not dating a jerk anymore, so even better. I have other poems about him that are more on the jerky side. I'm not gonna read those. A feeling like nowhere. We lie down, we look up, we see clouds. Out in fields where grass grows as high as fingertips that hang gentle, soft shoulders back, chest open to the air. No blanket, skin on cool blades delicately crushed. Two bodies, afternoon. We lie down, we look up, we see clouds. Blueness pure, domed over, far away daily duties simple. One body and no one else. Nothing else to do on an afternoon, nearby calm breeze, miles of grassland, get lost, tide low, nowhere else. We lie down, we look up, we see clouds, we laze. The breeze must push them across. They change shape gradually until they seem completely different from how they appeared at first glance when heads fell, light to ground, the ground soil, the ground solid. Distance from down to up, miles untouchable. Distance between hands equally near. We lie down, we look up, we see clouds. The sun stays somewhere close, not blazing, hinting in peripherals, also moving slow, also changing as warm cools off to chill. Hours silent, hours fade. Distance diminished, fingers interlace, arm in arm, rib to rib. No one, nowhere. We lie down, we look up, we see clouds, and then somehow stars. Okay, so I don't know if you heard the news, but I have a book coming out and I'm very excited about it. It's called How We Make Amends, and it's coming out from Moonlove Press in October. And I'm having the book launch at the library. I'm very excited. And thank you to the library again. And Moonlove Press specializes in women poets who write love poems, and I don't write love poems, but apparently I do. Because love is like not in the typical like lovey-dovey way of love. And so the How We Make Amends is mostly about nature. And I never thought that I would be in love with nature, but I am. I'm the worst person to take hiking, but I still like it. So I'm going to read two from that collection. A view from the landing. Through each blade, a bird. Short boardwalk, long shore. They asked for meaning. An arrow points up a path instead. To take shelter from sunlight, a further jaunt up, steep, then steeper. Exposed roots spindle, gravel moves. Dirt becomes sand. It all gets caught in creases. Falls out much later, unexpected. They asked for hope. The way to get to the other coastline is lined with crabs and dragonflies. If that's not hope, then I don't understand the point of light. So, and that I usually don't have dates on my poems, but that was written a year and a day ago because I did a hike around and write with some of the poetry folks, and we hiked, and then we wrote, and then we hiked, and we survived. So it was a good thing. So thank you again for listening. And I have two copies of How We Make Amends hasn't come out yet, of What We Do to Make Us Whole. I've got two copies in the back. Got stickers for everybody, so come see me about your sticker. And yeah, here's the last one. Heat, wave, walk. Flock flips up. Flicker, bicker, heave. Swarm of bumble. Market of carts. Parking lot empty. Red basket handle gone plastic. Harbor. Shimmery. All that shimmers shore to. Haze over forecast. Haystack. So much pressure behind face named not. The birds at the beach ran away when the wave came in, as if they weren't shorebirds, as if this had never happened before. They made a racket.
They made a scene. Bracket restrung once, twice, garden party. The trappings, decorous, decorum-est. I used to run from bees. I watched a moving twig. It became a hummingbird. So I followed it down to the garden as it skimmed the tops of each petal. And I followed it down, sandals skidding on gravel. And I followed it down into a red, red bloom. Thank you.
Christina Rao. All right. So our next two readers are not poets, so you're going to be in, but they are very good friends of the Gazebo that we've been here before, and I'm just delighted that they're here. That seems to be my word tonight. I want to tell you about next week. Next week we will have Diana Polis-Lutz, Valerie Griggs, Vicky Iorio, former Nassau County Poet Laureate Peter Dugan, and the first Poet Laureate of Suffolk County, George Wallace. So it's going to be another great week next week. But without any further ado, I'm going to bring up one of my favorites. Ladies and gentlemen, Larry McCoy.
What do you mean I'm not a poet?
I knew as soon as I said something. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Hi. As I say every year, it's good to be here. Good to be anywhere at my age. If any further proof was needed that the country is in a steep decline, be aware I'm having another book published. It's about how much fun I had and how much trouble I caused growing up in a small town in Indiana. The title, I Should Have Married My World History Teacher. Confessions of a Hoosier class clown. Here's a sample. The class clown grades his teachers. You don't get voted class clown by behaving, by being a saint. You ever hear of a high school that elected a class saint? My antics won me the honor of being the class clown of 1955 at the Frankfort, Indiana High School. I'm sure none of my teachers enjoyed themselves as much as I did. Martha Redmond, who taught speech and drama, didn't live all that far from me. And one day I saw a man leaving a note on the windshield of her car. Oh, temptation. A firm believer in an open society with a free flow of information, I stole the note. I had to. It was my patriotic duty. For a couple of weeks, I was pretty busy staking out her car and pilfering notes from the windshield. The notes weren't hot, steamy things. Darling, I can't wait to corner you with the toaster and grab those great buns of yours, but merely listed a time and place where they were to meet again. And no, the gentleman friend didn't call her bird legs, as all the kids did, because of her broad backside perched over tiny pins. Yep, I got caught and was marched over to Bird Legs' house by either mom or dad and apologized. Of course, I didn't mean a word of it. I had enjoyed the thievery. Doc Belcher, the physics teacher, was missing part of his right index finger. When kids messed around in class, Doc held up his right hand and said, "That'll cost you 5 demerits." The brave among us shot back, "You mean 4.5? That'll cost you another 5, Doc always replied. Our chemistry teacher, I remember it being Paul Swearingen, insisted we had to memorize valences as though this vital information was needed for any career, be it journalism where I ended up, or working in a pool hall. Would knowing the valence for helium have helped me ask better questions when UPI sent me to cover a news conference by Jimmy Hoffa? Or for that matter, if Jimmy Hoffa had known the valence for oxygen, would that have helped him get some and kept him from disappearing? That wasn't even a sentence. Edith Hinman taught world history. When she asked questions of the class, I had a habit, a good one, I thought, of taking off my glasses, putting a handkerchief over my face, putting the glasses back on, and then waving my hand. For some reason, she never called on me when I did this. I got A's on all the tests, but C's at grading time because of my behavior. I emceed the high school talent show, and after the final performance, Miss Hinman handed me a note. It said, "All is forgiven." It's still the best compliment I ever got. I have a couple more. Questions from an 85-year-old. Where do they go? The blueberries that don't quite make it to my mouth. I like blueberries on my cereal. Nearly every time I have them, at least one of those blue devils will escape, will fall, or maybe jump out of my spoon. Where's it go? It's not on my lap. I search the floor. No sign there of that little Dickens. I push my chair back from the table and lift the cushion off the chair. Nothing. It's never found. One of these days, I should parade around the breakfast table in white socks and see if that leads to the discovery of a colony of blueberries hiding in the kitchen. Where have all the editors gone? A university not far from me offers courses in what it calls pre-early childhood. Would that be when the mother is pregnant? Do the courses include the proper technique to speak directly into a woman's belly so the little one can hear you? In the produce section of a high-end grocery store, I saw a scale with a sign over it, customer scale. It was about 5 feet off the floor. Knowing I was too old to try to get up on the scale, I didn't. In the 20 minutes or so we were there, I didn't see any of the much younger customers try it either. Wimps. Why do they say that? My primary care doctor told me the other day, drink more water. I drink water all day and make many a visit to the place where you dispose of used water. Drink more water yourself, doctor. When's the last time you were in a doctor's office and saw any of the doctors or nurses guzzling water or walking around with a bottle in their hand? Exactly. They talk a good water game. It's all talk. Why do they do that? You go to the orthopedist in pain. X-rays are taken. The doctor comes in, looks at the X-rays, starts pressing on things. Would they like it if patients started poking them all over? And then the doctor hits pay dirt. He presses the one place where, when touched, you believe in Jesus again. Oh, do you? When the Jesus spot is discovered, the doctor is so pleased. He discusses options, and cortisone is frequently one of them. He leaves the room. In a minute or so, in comes a nurse. At least I hope she's a nurse and not an Uber driver dropping off lunch. In her hands are a needle and cotton and little packets of things. She puts her load on the table and leaves, claiming the doctor will be in shortly. He won't, and you know it. You have a newspaper with you and try to read, but you keep looking over at that needle. Is it always that long? You know the shot is going to hurt, not real awful bad, but bad enough. Time goes by. When the doctor shows up again, his poking resumed, and he searches anew for the Jesus spot. Ouch, he found it. He sprays something on the spot, maybe just good old Windex, and inserts the needle. You feel it, and then, did he just twist the damn thing? It sure feels like it. He asks, are you okay? You lie. Anyone married for more than 60 years is an expert at lying. You say, I'm fine. Thank you. You've all been drinking. Memo to new members of the wait staff. As should be obvious to all of you now, Mildred's Cafe is popular with the older crowd, the much, much older crowd. Mildred thanks you for all your good work. Let me just go over how to handle a few situations in the Mildred's Cafe way. Never, ever ask, do you have any questions? Always make sure you say, do you have any questions about the menu? If you just say, do you have any questions, one Weisenheimer will ask something along the lines of, yes. Do you know how I can get Amazon Prime on my TV? You are not being paid to sigh or to roll your eyes. Do not sigh, do not roll your eyes, do not cuss silently or audibly when one of our precious seniors asks you to repeat for the 5th time the day's specials. When the lady with the hearing aid that keeps falling out of her left ear Her name is Doris. Ask if you can put a sunny side up egg on top of her bowl of cornflakes. All you have to say is, why, of course, dearie. Trust me, when her cornflakes come out, she will have forgotten all about ordering the egg. And finally, the most important reminder of all, do not ever ask a table packed with old folks who've had 20 minutes to look at the menu, do you need more time? That is incredibly rude. They may have only 3 years left, or 3 months, or even just 3 days. They do not need to be reminded of this. Always be precise. Are you ladies and gentlemen ready to order should do the trick. Again, Mildred thanks you for your dedication and your efforts. By the way, we're looking for volunteers for shifts on Labor Day. The time and a half pay, plus the fact that sweet old Doris is never here that day, should be an incentive for some of you to work. Thank you.
Chloe McCoy. So our final reader of the evening has been with us, I think, almost every year. We've missed, I don't know if we've missed a year or not, but certainly, our contacts actually goes a little bit further than this. I don't know if remember Jerry remembers, but when our daughters were both starting out their careers, my daughter in politics down in DC and his daughter at Washington Post, his daughter interviewed my daughter. And it was my daughter's first interview, and she was absolutely petrified. She told me the name of the reporter coming in, and I said, that's just also in the newspaper business, last name. And sure enough, it turns out that they were, and she wrote a very nice article on my daughter. And so my daughter continued in politics all these years. And Jerry and I were talking about this. It's nice. It's a nice contact. So without any further ado, one of our favorites here at the Gazebo, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Zezima.
This side, okay. No, I think, no, it's fine.
There we go. There you go. All right, Tony, thank you so much. I guess I have been here all 17 years. So Tony, may you never learn your lesson. I'm coming back again next year too. My older daughter actually did go into journalism as I did. So I'm going to have to rely on my younger daughter to support me in my old age, which is rapidly approaching. I brought some recent columns, so I'm going to start with one called Martha and Me. At my age, rapidly approaching a 7th decade of immaturity, I never thought I could be a swimsuit model, the mere sight of which will clear a beach faster than Jaws. But then I saw Martha Stewart on the cover of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, which I bought for strictly professional purposes, and realized you can be 81 as Martha is and still look fabulous. Now I want to follow in her sandy footsteps and grace the cover of a major national magazine to prove that age doesn't necessarily go before beauty. Even though I have maintained my boyish figure, I won't wear a bikini, as some of the SI models do. A Speedo would be more my speed. Let me tell you, my wife Sue told me, I'll never be seen in public with you in a Speedo. It couldn't be any worse than my baggy swim trunks. They wouldn't get me on the cover of any publication except perhaps GQ, Geezer's Quarterly. I began my quest to be a famous cover boy by going straight to the source, Martha Stewart herself. In an email to Martha, which I sent to her public relations agency, I wrote, I think it's great that you're in the Sears Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. I would love to speak with you about what it takes to be a swimsuit model, and if you think I could be one. So far,
I haven't heard back. I also left 2 unanswered phone messages. She's probably with Snoop Dogg, Sue said, referring to Martha's rapper and talent business partner. Undeterred, I wrote to MJ Day, editor-in-chief of Sports Illustrated Swimsuit. After complimenting her on being age-inclusive, making Martha Stewart one of this year's models, I wrote, as a guy who will turn the big 7-0 in January, I would love to speak with you about what it takes to be a swimsuit model, and if you would consider me for the next issue. I haven't received a response, so I guess Ms. Day is relaxing on a beach somewhere with Martha and Snoop. Next, I wrote to a publication that doesn't have a swimsuit issue, but is geared toward people my age and might put me on the cover. AARP, the magazine. An editor there said I should go through the media office, but the contact person is on leave. Whether it's maternity, paternity, or Social Security, I don't know. I made a final attempt with GQ, the real one, which usually puts young guys on the cover, but might, in this enlightened age, be enlightened about age. In an email to the publicity department, I offered to be a cover model, if not in a swimsuit, which would add a new wrinkle or several to the magazine, then at least in a tailored suit, which I would have to spend big bucks on. No reply as yet. So I went to a sporting goods store for a Speedo to see how I look on a magazine cover. When I told the sales associate named John about my plan to be the male Martha Stewart, he said, "You definitely could." "I'll be 70 on my next birthday," I said. "You look great," replied John, 25, who politely did not add "for your age." Then he handed me 2 Speedos, each a different size, and said I should go downstairs to the dressing room. That's where I met Jess, another sales associate. I told her the whole story. Jess, a very youthful looking 40, smiled and said, "You've got it going on, Jerry." I entered the dressing room and tried on both suits. The first, which I thought was my size, didn't go up past my knees. The second, which I thought would be too big, was so snug that I could have auditioned for the Vienna Boys Choir. "Looks like I won't be a cover boy," I said as I handed the Speedos to Jess. "Maybe those baggy swim trunks are my speed after all." So that's Martha and me. I have a couple more. This one's called Bathroom Remodeling. It's a real soap opera. Who here has done house work around the house? Yes, everyone has. Okay. Between long daily reservoir draining showers to keep myself smelling fresh as a daisy, frequent shaving mishaps that draw enough blood to choke a vampire, and so many throne sittings I could be a member of the royal family, you'd think I would be flush with excitement at the prospect of remodeling the bathroom. But shopping for tile, a vanity, a toilet, and fixtures for the sink and shower has left me, if you will pardon the expression, drained. The project became necessary after I took a shower and noticed that there was something wrong with the plumbing. The showers, not mine. Specifically, the water kept dripping out of the shower head. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't turn it off. I didn't want to use brute strength because I don't have any. Also, I feared that I would cause a torrent to rival Niagara Falls, a tourist attraction that, unlike my bathroom, has postcards. So my wife, Sue, who claims that I spend most of my waking hours in the porcelain convenience, told me to call a plumber. I contacted our contractor, Anthony, who came over with Andy, a plumber who has done wonderful work for us before. Both are great and talented guys. They agreed that because of leakage and aging, a remodeling was in order. For me, I wondered. Anthony shook his head and said, "You need to do something soon before you have more problems." Thus did Sue and I embark on the search for new tile and all the other items that would make our bathroom a nice place to visit, even in the middle of the night. On the first of so many trips to a home improvement store that we could have been given our own parking space, Sue and I were confronted with endless choices of tile, some for the shower, others for the floor. And I learned a valuable lesson. When it comes to bathrooms, size doesn't matter. Even a small space like ours can't be remodeled without a large bottle of headache alleviating pain reliever, which is kept in the vanity. The question was, should our new vanity be white or dark? That conundrum was down on the list because first we had to pick tile. Should it be white in the shower and patterned on the floor, or vice versa? Should we get subway tile for the shower? If so, would I have to spray it with graffiti? Should the floor tile be square, rectangular, hexagonal? How about a trapezoid? Should it be porcelain or matte? Who's matte? Should we have a niche in the shower wall so we can store shampoo, conditioner, and fruity scented body wash? Will picking a new sink give me a sinking feeling? Which fixture should we get? Brushed nickel or chrome? Why shouldn't I take any brushed nickels? What about a toilet? Standard or fancy? In the end, who cares? Would a new mirror make me look any better while trimming my nose hair? Shower doors or a curtain? Would this be curtains for me? And most important, how much of our liquid assets would go down the drain before all this was mercifully over? Mitch, a friendly department manager who became our shopping advisor, was very helpful. This is more complicated than quantum physics, I grumbled. It's actually pretty simple, he assured me. Your wife will make the final decisions. Husbands don't have much say in the matter. It takes the pressure off. Mitch, a husband himself, was right. I've always believed that it's best for a guy to be like a bobblehead doll. You nod and you smile and you don't say anything. We went through countless shower, floor, and vanity combinations, even taking individual pieces of tile home to envision how they would look in the bathroom before Sue made up her mind. I must say, I really don't have to, but just to be safe, I will, that she made all the right choices. Now Anthony and Andy have to do the remodeling. When they're done, I'll invite the royal family to come over and sit on the throne. Thank you. How many people here are grandparents? All right. This one is called Nothing But the Tooth. I used to think that criminal possession of a forged instrument involved stealing a tuba. Now I know what I should have known for the past 40 years. It's the act of writing a note to an unsuspecting child while pretending to be a fictional character. That's why, in my latest act of forgery, I plead guilty to impersonating the Tooth Fairy. I was pressed into conducting the shameful ruse when my grandson Xavier, who's 6 years old, lost his first tooth. Because his parents, Katie and Dave, were out of town, and my wife Sue and I were watching Xavier and his 3-year-old twin siblings, Zoe and Quinn, for the weekend, I had to write a note from the Tooth Fairy congratulating the excited boy on his initial dental dropping. Then I had to slip the note, along with the $5 Katie had left for me, into a small canvas bag with a picture of a smiling bow tie wearing tooth on the front. After the kids went to sleep, I put the bag under Xavier's pillow while he presumably dreamed of an overnight windfall from a winged pixie whose handwriting closely approximated that of a sneaky grandfather. Against the advice of my attorney, who was in jail, I will admit that my career in forgery dates back to when Katie and Lauren were as young as my grandchildren are now. Under orders from Sue, who took care of everything else, I wrote notes from Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and of course, the Tooth Fairy. Naturally, the girls kept the notes, so I had to remember whose handwriting was from which character. The Tooth Fairy's writing couldn't match that of Santa, whose writing couldn't match that of the Easter Bunny, and none could match mine, which ordinarily looks like the chicken scratch of a man whose hand was caught in a trash compactor. Eventually, Katie and Lauren went from suspicion to the dismaying certainty that their father was a well-meaning but incompetent fraud. The problem is that, I had been on probation for the past 4 decades until Xavier lost his first tooth, a lateral incisor on the bottom row. The problem was that we couldn't find it. The tooth wasn't in his bed, or on the bedroom, or in his pajamas, or on the bedroom floor. Sue suspected that he swallowed it. I told her that even though I am a devoted grandfather, following the tooth through his alimentary canal and into the toilet was out of the question. I assured Xavier that the Tooth Fairy didn't need evidence that he had lost a tooth. And besides, what the hell was she supposed to do with it? The next morning, the beaming boy ran up to me and said, "Guess what, Poppy? The Tooth Fairy came last night and left me $5. She also left me a note. Want to read it?" Since I'm old and forgot what I wrote, I said, "Of course." The note read, "Dear Xavier, congratulations on losing your first tooth. I am so proud of you, and I love coming to your house to leave this gift. Keep being a good boy, and don't forget to brush your teeth every night before bed. Love, the Tooth Fairy." Zoe, who initially said she was scared of the Tooth Fairy, saw the moolah and said, "I can't wait to lose a tooth so the Tooth Fairy can leave me some money." Quinn added, "Me too, then I'll be rich." It dawned on me that inflation had increased the Tooth Fairy's monetary gift from the 25 cents Katie and Lauren used to get to the $5 Xavier received. At least the Tooth Fairy still uses cash. What's next? A check? A credit card? Venmo? But the most important question was asked by Zoe. "Poppy," she said, "when your teeth fall out, will the Tooth Fairy leave you some money?" "I hope so, sweetheart," I answered, "and she might even write me a nice note." There we go. Well, Tony's not by the tree, so one more? Okay. You're going to choose. There's one about a decade of being a grandfather or passwords. Who wants to hear decade of being a grandfather? Raise your hand. Okay, I'm bad at math, so I count like 2. How about passwords? Oh, you want to hear that? Okay. All righty, here we go. This one's called Headed Off at the Password. I'm a mild and lazy guy. That's the only reason I haven't been driven stark raving mad by an evil cabal I am convinced is now running my life and has turned it into one big gaslight job. There is no other explanation for the fact that every business, organization, outlet, entity, agency, or group I must deal with requires me to have a username and a password that don't work and must be changed every damn time I try to log into one of their websites. I envision shadowy figures in a small room ringed with screens that show me on my computer, attempting to pay a loan or trying to get the information I need to meet my obligations and stay out of jail or, more likely, the loony bin. "Look," chortles the ringleader. He's banging his fist on the desk and cursing a blue streak because he can't log in. "Let's make sure his password doesn't work," a henchman chimes in. "How about his username?" another one asks. "We'll force him to come up with a new one," a lieutenant says gleefully. "And that won't work either," says a fellow fiend. "Brilliant," they all agree. And when he calls for assistance, the ringleader sneers, "He'll be put on hold for an eternity." It just so happens that I did call for assistance recently after being rebuffed in my several maddening attempts to log into a website so I could find out when the next loan payment is due
and whether I could get an extension. I apologize for the inconvenience. A very nice customer care representative named Darlene said when I finally got through. More than likely, you tried to log in to the old website. Is there a new website? I wondered. We have old and new systems in place, Darlene answered. I know it's a big headache. At this point, I said, the ache is in a lower portion of my anatomy. Darlene chuckled and said, I hear you. Then she added, go to the new website and log in. My username doesn't work, I said when I tried. I got a new username last week after being told that the one I had before was no good. What happened? Darlene asked. The new username did indeed work, I said, but when I went back to the website, it didn't work anymore, so I had to use the old one. Did it work? Darlene inquired. Yes, I said, but it doesn't work now. What do you see on your screen? Darlene asked. It says, I'm sure you've all seen this. We're sorry, we can't find the user ID and password combination you entered. Remember, your password is case sensitive. Please go to forget user ID or forgot password and try to log in again, I told her. Darlene said I should use the new old username or the old new one. By that time, I was totally confused, but at least it worked. Unfortunately, what I thought was my password didn't. So Darlene texted me a new temporary password that looked like the electron configuration for boron. You can change it to whatever you want, she said, but don't use your previous password. I can't remember what the hell it was anyway, I confessed. I chose a password that was no good because it was alphanumeric, a term that encompasses letters and numerals, but not certain symbols. I was disappointed since I would have chosen a raised finger emoji. So I picked an acceptable password and, utilizing my sophisticated filing system, wrote it down on a Post-it note. I ignored a box that allowed me to write a password hint because, after suggesting one to Darlene, she said, I don't think you can use swear words. Have you helped other people who've had these problems? I asked. All the time, said Darlene. Has it ever happened to you? I asked. Not at this company, Darlene replied, but it's happened with other institutions. At this rate, I'll end up in an institution, I said. The only way out is if I forget my password. That's it. Thank you very much. I too have some copies of my latest book in the back on the table. It's called One for the Ageless: How to Stay Young and Immature Even If You're Really Old. Like all my other books, it's a crime against literature. So thank you very much.
Jerry Zezima. All right, let's hear for all of our readers tonight. Let's hear it for all the Kiwanians who helped set up tonight and every night, and of course, all the ladies at the back table. All right, so tonight's winner wins $42. Not looking, not looking, not looking. Tom. All right, Tom, there we go. All right, now I'm going to pull four more, and as all of you regulars know, you don't win anything tonight, but you do get put into the August drawing. Maybe you win the big bucks. Vance? Jerry Zezima? Oh, Mr. McCoy? Actually, you're right, Jack. There you go. And Fran Bacon. All right, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you next week. And thank you all for coming out.